What's going on, y'all? I'm Magic Pat, the Purple Worm DM, and this is my channel. I really wanted to start this channel to kind of share my love of playing the game and playing games in general. I always knew that I was a nerdy person growing up. Didn't really realize how nerdy. I grew up during that era when being nerdy was not cool. So we had people that wanted to mess with you, beat you up, whatever. But I held true to myself. I never really shunned away from it. I collected some comic books, played a lot of video games. I collected my Pokemon cards back in the day and Yu-Gi-Oh, all that kind of stuff. So I've always been a nerdy person. This is one of those things where I didn't exactly realize how nerdy I actually was. Fast forward years later, I met my wife when we were dating. Found out that she liked to go to Dragon Con and make her own costumes and everything. And it was something I thought was neat. I've always loved Halloween because I get to dress up and make costumes and stuff. So it was like right up my alley. This was my first year going. I did like everybody else. I just bought a costume. I didn't really put anything into it. And as, time went on, we started making our own costumes. So we went down that little path and then moved away for a little while for work. And, after about a year and a half, we moved back for work. And when we got back, a friend of ours that we hadn't talked to in a long time was just kind of like, hey, let's hang out, talk, and see how everybody's doing. And she just casually, in conversation at dinner, drops that she was into playing Dungeons and Dragons. And that's a pretty funny thing because she's not what I would call a nerdy person. To hear her talk about it was funny. And I never really saw myself playing tabletop games like that because I didn't really understand the storytelling aspect. So you got a lot of DMs and stuff out there who have way more experience into that stuff, been playing their whole life. I really have only started getting into this within the last 5 to 6 years, which is, crazy to think about. But once I found out about it and got into it, it has like radically changed my life for the better, which, it's funny to hear that about a game, but it's true. So she invited us to one of her sessions. A friend of hers was the DM. Her and her husband, they played games with people and stuff. They put on sessions and campaigns. So I said, sure, we'll come watch. We're not really too sure about it. After talking to my wife, turns out that she has played tabletop games before. She actually played Shadowrun. So I got to hear her tell me about her, stuff that went on. And I don't think they ever really got to play too many sessions with her group. They were more into the character building side of it, but they did play a little bit. And so I decided, yeah, we'll go check out this session. So when we got there, first thing I noticed was they had a large group. There was 6 to 8 players plus the DM. And of course, one of the players was her husband. I can't remember what kind of character he was playing. I think Barbarian, something like that. So we got to meet everybody. They were really cool people. We sat down at the table. They were really open with the fact that, I had no experience whatsoever. And I was just going to sit there and just watch, and just ask questions. But I wasn't going to really, mess with it too hard. I didn't want to break the immersion, which I ended up breaking the immersion anyway, just because it was tripping me out and I started losing my mind. It was the funniest thing I ever seen in my life up to this point. You got a large group of adults playing a game of make-believe, basically, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around it at first until one of the characters decided he was going to chase after one of the others. One of them ran off on his own and got ambushed by 10 bandits, something like that. After he ran into all of those bandits, one of the other players decided that he was going to sneak after him and see if he could just kind of keep an eye on him from a distance. He was on top of a roof, decided he was going to roll off the roof and land all superhero, and it was terrible. He failed his role. Character fell off the roof, caused damage. It was chaos. Like from that point on, the game was off the rails. I actually got to hear in that session somebody utter the words, "I cast Fireball," followed by, "I don't care how big the space is." Got dropped right into that one, right in my first, ever watching a game. Was amazing. I ended up having a blast. My wife had a blast. And as the session ended, it was kind of a, bittersweet scenario because this was that group's last session together. They were all separating ways because of work and family and all kinds of stuff. We're all adults. The world, it doesn't revolve around you. And sadly, at the end of the day, this is just a game. So they were going out with a bang on this last session. Once it ended, I got to talk to the DM, get to meet them a little bit, and express that I had a wonderful time watching this go on, and that me and my wife would actually be willing to do a session if they wanted to start up another campaign, which, lucky for us, she did. So we started a new campaign. And funny story, my first ever character was a dragonborn monk named Nadar, who had a hatred for cultists and a love for salted meats. That was a little side story that just developed with the character as our campaign went. Ended up being a blast. So I learned a ton of stuff. Just ended up being this amazing game. And we played for, I don't even know, probably 2 years. That campaign went on for 2 years. Which, I mean, not very many games make it that far. I think we got to level 6 or 7. And the DM, she decided that she wanted to stop that campaign and start a new one. Because that one was just really, rough for her to actually play. And that was awesome. Totally understood because I didn't realize how much planning went into it, but it seemed like she had a lot on her plate with it. And throughout this time, I started getting the feeling that maybe I would like to be a DM. And I talked to her about that. And so it turns out she was a forever DM. She has been DMing since, I guess since they started playing. I don't even remember if she ever played before she became a DM. But she seemed super excited for somebody else to tell a story and let her play. So it was amazing. She got to make a really cool character that I absolutely love called Poppy. Was a wild magic sorcerer. Absolutely insane. Just a little bit of info out there. Do yourself a favor and your DM a favor, and every once in a while, let them play a game. Tell them you're going to do a one-shot or a couple of sessions, and let them create a character, because that was the best thing in the world, seeing her face when I told her I wanted to try DMing and see how it works, and maybe let her play a little bit. Fast forward to me getting ready for my very first game, very first campaign. I had no idea what I was getting into. I just knew I loved the storytelling. I loved all the stuff. I'm a very creative person. I just don't have the skill to create at the same level that my creativity kicks off. So I walked into my local game store, Moxie, and Moxie Games here in Georgia, but I was walking through, looking at the books and the modules, and just decided, hey, this one right here looks cool. Let's try it. It's got a big monster on the cover. They'll love fighting that. So my first ever session as a DM was out of the module, Out of the Abyss. And if you know anything about that, it's a very difficult module to play. It is not recommended for beginner DMs. And I'll tell you, I learned to be a DM by trial by fire, because the first thing out of the gate is you got all these NPCs to keep up with, plus your players, which for my first session ever, I believe I started off with 5 players. So it was a large number already, on top of a large number of NPCs. The game ended up being a little darker than I wanted. I wanted us to have more of a whimsical kind of game. And, that module is very dark. Everything is very deadly. It was interesting. One of the good things about my DM now becoming my player was that learning how to DM from in the beginning, I had a little bit of a crutch. I could fall on her and her husband's ideas and their ways of DMing and playing the game to help me out as I tried to figure out my style of DMing. They let me know what was, appropriate for a DM to do for campaigns, what not to do, things that, could help speed up combat. Was a big help in the beginning. And one of the very first things that they both taught me was that, I'm the DM. This is my world, my story. I don't have to follow the module 100%. I can make it my world. So the first thing I did was I may have got rid of a few NPCs by accident. They just had to go. It was just too much for me starting off. Now, I'm a little bit better about it, but I'm telling you, for my first ever campaign, keeping up with that many NPCs and players, it was a rough go of it. But we made it work. We had some really good characters. Had a blast. I learned a lot. And we actually played for several years. This campaign went on for a long time. I actually was surprised. I believe we got the characters all the way to level 7 or 8 before I finally decided I wanted to stop this campaign and try something a little bit different. So we usually play throughout the year, and then come Christmas, we stop because everybody's holidays and birthdays and everything go on. So we go for a good while, and then we pick back up after the holidays. So I decided, and this new campaign has only been going on like 6 to 8 months. It hasn't been going on a super long time, not compared to my first ever one. But I decided to do something different. I now felt I had enough experience to create my own world. And that's what we did. I created my own campaign. I made my own world. I took a lot of the stuff that I loved in video games and just gaming and stuff as a kid and put them into one world. And so far, we are having a blast. Although, I feel like these characters that they're playing is leaning more towards moral gray area. A lot of syndicate stuff going on, but it is an absolute blast. Change things up and just kind of let the characters do whatever. Let my players, this is their world and they actually get to enjoy it. We're not stuck just in the Underdark. And I am just absolutely loving everything about this. We went from being, kind of nerdy, liking our stuff, to now we are like full blown, just completely immersed in it. It has changed, our life. We've met new people and made some incredible friends. And I just wanted to start this channel to share, the experiences with y'all. I'm still learning stuff, so, try to have a little bit of patience with me. I may not know the correct answer all the time, but as my channel goes, we will have fun. We'll talk about stuff going on in my sessions, things that happen in past sessions, funny things going on, and we'll kind of tell stories. And, every once in a while, I'll probably be up here talking about some of the things that I created. And that's, as we go, I'll continue to share that stuff with you. And I will probably eventually start doing, maybe some live streams on here and Kick, or that way we can hang out. So that's about it. This video is a lot longer than it probably should have been for an introduction, but I will catch you on the next video.